Now, US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson completed his Asia trip over the weekend with stops in Japan, South Korea and China. North Korea, as you can imagine, was high on the agenda, but despite announcing that a new approach was needed to tackle the rogue state, Tillerson offered little in the way of details. For a wrap-up of his tour, here's Kwon Jang-ho.
3 countries in 5 days. It's been a long and busy week for the US Secretary of State, who began his new job just 2 weeks ago, and his first trip to Asia was dominated by the tricky subject of North Korea. He began his trip in Tokyo, where he made the surprising declaration that the previous 20 years of efforts to denuclearize Pyongyang had failed, and that a new approach was needed.
In the face of this ever-escalating threat, it is clear that a different approach is required. Part of the purpose of my visit to the region is to exchange views on a new approach.
What that new approach would be was the subject of much speculation as he made his way to Seoul, where he announced that the US policy of strategic patience was over, and that even military action was possible if North Korea escalated their nuclear threat level. That threw even more attention to the final and perhaps trickiest leg of his trip, China, North Korea's greatest ally, and the looming question was whether Beijing would be open to the US's new approach. The trip was complicated by a tweet by US President Donald Trump hours before Tillerson was due to arrive in Beijing, which said that China had done little to help in curbing Pyongyang's actions. Despite this, the meetings in Beijing seemed to have concluded amicably, but China seemed to push only one approach to North Korea.
China has stressed or reiterated in clear terms that the parties concerned should resume dialogues and negotiations. It is the obligation of all the relevant parties to carry out the sanctions, and it is also their responsibility to restart the dialogue.
So where does this leave the new approach? Despite Tillerson's early pronouncement in Tokyo, very little detail was given on what was discussed among the leaders and what action the US plans to take. Some observers have expressed disappointment by the lack of an outcome, while others note it's still early in the Trump administration and that the purpose of the trip was to test the waters in the region. All eyes will now be on the planned US-China summit next month, where Donald Trump is slated to host Xi Jinping at his exclusive Mar-a-Lago resort. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.